Guy there.
On the right side?
Was on the intro. Yay. Hey everyone, welcome to Creator Toolbox, a show brought to you by this team, the ServiceNow Developer Program, where we demo new ServiceNow features for your everyday toolbox. So one of the things we always do traditionally is in the top right corner of your screen, which was my top right. Right there. There it is. On the top right corner of the screen, you can see we are in the middle of our Xanadu release content. So be sure to check out our content calendar, which is at devlink.sn/Xanadu, to see everything that we're doing from podcasts, blogs, YouTube videos, YouTube live streams, all that cool stuff, all things Xanadu. So be sure to check that out. We'll have links in the description to all of our other creator toolboxes and all of our other content too. All right, now that we've done a little bit intro to the show, let's introduce who we have as guests for today. As a reminder, hi everyone, my name is Earl Duque. I am a senior developer advocate here at ServiceNow. I was a customer developer for 4 or 5 years before joining ServiceNow about 3 years ago. So I've been, I think, doing ServiceNow stuff since like 2017, 18, since then. But yeah, so that's me. I'll go ahead and let Ronen introduce himself.
Hi, good morning, and nice to meet you again, Earl. So my name is Ronen Aseo. I'm a product manager for App Gen. I've been with ServiceNow for 3 months now, just celebrated my 3 months anniversary. Prior to ServiceNow, I've done work in various enterprise software companies, primarily focusing on the developer persona.
Nice, and we'll have Dave introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Earl. And yeah, I'm Dave Hong. I'm an engineering manager here as part of the App Engine org. I've been here at ServiceNow for about 5 years now, and prior to that, I'm very familiar with the developer community, working on the developer.servicenow.com site. So thanks for having me here.
Yes. Okay. So one thing I realized pretty for like several weeks into our content calendar for Xanadu is that a lot of our creator toolboxes are focused on Now Assist stuff. So our generative AI capabilities within the platform. So it's one of the things we're going to be talking about today, Now Assist for app generation. Ronen and Dave are going to talk a lot about it and bring, if you've never seen it before, that's an introduction, but they're also going to do a demo of it so that you can really see what it looks like in platform. If you're interested in all the other stuff we're doing for Now Assist or Xanadu itself, we also just did a keynote last week, which I found we had more than 100,000 views, which is great for our, it's cool that we're celebrating our releases now and we're getting a lot of traction and getting a lot of people to watch it. So if you haven't seen it yet, go to, I think it's devlink.sn/Xanadu after party, and you'll see all the links to the keynote and then our little after party streams that we did where we had a lot of fun with the Xanadu release. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Ronen to start talking about app generation.
Thanks again. So as Earl mentioned, in today's presentation, we're going to focus on app generation and what's new for app generation in Xanadu release, in the latest store release, XS1 that we released. And we're also going to talk about a little bit on what's coming next for Xanadu for XS2. Go to the next slide, please. So what is AppGen? So AppGen is an ability, a Gen AI capability that ServiceNow has launched since Washington 2 release in May 2024. which allows developers to create apps using generative AI. This is part of the generative AI agenda for ServiceNow, and the Xanadu release actually is one of the largest Gen AI release that ServiceNow has done so far. And there's multiple Gen AI release, Gen AI capabilities that are coming with code assist, flow generation, playbook generations, and others. In this session, we're going to focus on about app generation, and the idea with app generation is really to enable you to boost your productivity by creating apps via a conversation-like experience as you describe the requirements, describe your business needs. The Gen AI will help you define what you need and will help you create tables, forms, roles, ACLs, and record producers. And the idea is really, we want you to kickstart the application fast. We want you to be able to brainstorm with the Gen AI on what you need and come up with recommendations on how to build the application and what it should contain. And now we will see it in action with Dave.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so you can't see my screen, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to be showcasing what we've released on the Xanadu Store 1 release here. So you'll notice that we have our analysis panel here open here on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off by clicking on Create an Application. And again, the whole power of this is the fact that you can have this natural conversation with the system here. The example here I'm just going to copy and paste my different responses here. So in this case, I'm starting with something relatively vague here. I want to track the expenses that my team has when they go on business travel here. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And as that happens, again, this is a conversation. So we're going to go back and forth between the system and myself as the user here. So as it starts thinking and coming up with a response, it starts asking me, hey, what kind of stuff would you like to track for this expense? I'll go ahead and provide another bit of information here with regards to saying that I have a team of 10 people.
Hey, Dave, real quick, it's almost tradition on this show that it's reminded almost every single time we do a live stream. Can you zoom in just a bit? We usually aim for like 150% on Chrome for people to be able to see it better. There we go. One person in the chat was like, can you zoom in? And literally every stream, even if it's us just doing our own stuff, we always forget about the zooming in part. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no worries. Is this a good zoom level, or would you like me to get a little more?
I think that's good.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so in this case, I just said, hey, I have a team of 10 people. We go to various locations. We have a per diem of $50 a day and 100. So then rather than me trying to suss out all this, I'm going to actually have the system provide some recommendations here. So I'm go ahead and input that in. It's going to think and come back with a set of suggestions here. So here's some suggestions in terms of tracking the employee name, date of expense, the type. And is there anything else that I would want to track for that matter? And actually there is. I'm going to go ahead and say that, this is a pretty good start. However, if there's an expense that's under $500, that can go ahead and be auto-approved. And then anything else needs to be reviewed by a manager or VP. So we'll go ahead and input that in. And let's see what the system will come up with at this point. All right, so now it came back and said, hey, I have these different statuses that I can provide as part of this application. Does that work? I'll say, yeah, that sounds good. I'll just go ahead and say yes. And again, this is sort of the power of not sitting there clicking through different wizards, but instead we're having this natural conversation here. Now, in this case,
it's even better than just that, because in the previous way we would have thought of doing this is more through the natural language kind of stuff, but that's still required like setting up the go back tos or the figuring out what the conversational experience is supposed to be like. And it's just, but this is actually a conversation, and it's you're actually able to reiterate or add things back to it, which is not something we could do before the analysis stuff within, like, not virtual agent, but also just in the sidebar.
Right. And I think this really leverages on one of the big, I think, advantages with Gen AI, which is that ability to kind of ideate and brainstorm with the system. rather than me trying to figure out, hey, what was the requirements that I had? Maybe there are blind spots that I had in my requirements that weren't fully sussed out here. So I think this is kind of a good way to kind of bootstrap this project here. So continuing on here, I'll go ahead and say that I want to go ahead and create a record producer to provide ways to submit this. So I'll also go ahead and say yes. And then at this point, we have, aside from what fields should be included, I have no idea. I'm just going to go ahead and say just suggest some.
Nice.
So
Also, right before the stream, you even talked to me about like, oh, how long do some of these things take? And like, this is actually really fast. All of these calls too.
yeah, you can also make it as terse as possible in terms of your conversation, or you can have it keep going, right? Just kind of depends on how much you want to really ID on this. I'm going to go ahead and say these fields are fine. So I'll say these fields are fine. And then we'll go ahead and hopefully by this point, let's see what the system will generate for us. Typically, if it's thinking this long. Oh, sorry.
No worries. I was just wondering, like, at one point when I was wondering if it like was going to ask you to confirm to go ahead and move forward with it. Oh, there's the generate app button. Okay. Yeah, I was waiting for that part.
Correct. So again, we had this conversation, we went back and forth, and tried to figure out what my requirements are. At this point, what we have is what we call an app spec, which basically gives us an overview of what the application is going to go ahead and generate, along with what it does. So I think one of the big misses a lot of times with generating applications is that sometimes if you have an admin who's looking at an app, they actually have no idea what this app is actually supposed to do. So one nice thing here is being able to provide this overview.
Nice.
We also outline, for instance, hey, who are the intended users of this application? Here are some of the features about this application, and also to point out that we have a record producer that allow us to input some of this information here. Now, let's say I can be totally fine with it, and I can go ahead and generate the application. And what generate does is it'll actually go out to the LLM and come up with a bunch of different JSON payloads that we want to eventually persist. But in this case, let's say I want to go ahead and make a change here. Let's say I'm not happy with the app name, and let's say I want to also change something else about this application. So at this point, why don't we say, call this, what are we doing? We're going to call this, rename this application to the Creator Toolbox Travel
Nice. On theme.
App.
Nice on theme.
Yeah. And then we'll go ahead and also say, also, if there's expenses not related to our travels, let's go ahead and mark it as unapproved, something like that. So we're kind of doing this on the fly, and hopefully the demo gods will shine nicely on us here. So hopefully what we should see here is once we've made the change to the application, we'll generate a new app spec here again with the updated app name in this case. Let's go ahead and see that, hey, one of the key things here is that we're going to mark these expenses as unapproved. So at this point, we're at this critical juncture now where we can go ahead and generate this application. And so at this point, I have nothing to do. It's all the system doing the work in the background. And it's going to be providing sort of continuous feedback as it goes through and generates some of the metadata. So in this case, it provides us a summary of, hey, based on that app spec that I generated, I'm going to go ahead and create one table, 2 user roles, and a record producer. And each time it's going to go ahead and provide that update as, okay, I went ahead and created this table. I went ahead and created this role. And by the end of it, what you'll get is a brand new application that you can go ahead and kickstart and make tweaks to it. And hopefully that will save you time in terms of having to either step through a wizard or ideate on it with a full team, and you can provide that artifact for folks to take a look at. So once it's done here, we'll go ahead and get a link. And for XS1 and previous releases, we take you into App Engine Studio here. So I'll go ahead and click there. We'll go ahead and open up App Engine Studio.
Oh, one question we got in the chat real quick. Jerry asked, hey, Jerry, one of our rising stars is asking, is this using Now Assist Creator for the app generation? And that is correct, unless you want to correct me. But app generation for Now Assist is included in the Now Assist for Creator package on ServiceNow.
Correct, exactly. Yeah. All right, so we went ahead and loaded up App Engine Studio here. A couple things to call out here is we really, really want to make sure that users know that this was generated using analysis, and they should really take the time to review it before they go ahead and try to submit it or deploy it to production. I'll go ahead and dismiss that toast notification. You'll notice that we also provide badging across different metadata here to make sure that users realize that this was generated using AI. One thing that was added with regards to this update to App Engine Studio is the ability to review each one of these metadata items here. So once I go ahead and click on review, for instance, we'll go and take a look at the table. We just want to make sure and cross-check that what the AI suggested and persisted matches with that app spec that we went ahead and generated earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the fields. I see that, for instance, here's my expense amount. I'll go ahead and see that this is when the date was created. And here are the different things like the employee name. Notice that, for instance, it picked up on the fact that we're going to reference the user table here. One thing I also like checking also is the choice list here. So the choice list here is making sure that, again, goes back to that idea of, hey, what's the approval status? So you can see it came up with a bunch of choices there. And we can go ahead and jump over the type of expense as well. So we'll go ahead and close this guy out. And let's go ahead and take a look at one more thing, which is our record producer. And this is probably how a lot of users will go ahead and input some of that data. So as we open this up, we can go ahead and preview it and take a look at what users expect here. So why don't we go ahead and click on preview. We'll take a look at how this might potentially render on a portal. And voila, there we go. We got the ability to enter in your username, the date, again, the choice list here, along with other additional information as well. So that's that's our app generation, kind of going through that whole workflow with regards to having that back and forth conversation with the LLM. I don't know if it's a good point to pause or if we can jump to one other demo.
Yeah, I actually have some. I think there was a couple of questions plus some observations from my side too.
Sure.
I was kind of hoping to see that app overview that you had when you were generating it. Did that get placed anywhere? Was that on the record producer description or anything like that? Did that get pushed
No,
anywhere?
but this is something that we would want to put on the description field inside of the sys app record.
Yes.
And again,
Save your conversation before you close everything down or anything, so you can copy and paste some of
right,
this stuff over. Yeah.
right.
We do
And
have a
again, this.
question. Oh,
Oh,
sorry. Go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
that the description would really help, I think, teams in general be able to kind of socialize and also for admins to know exactly what this application does so that, again, if they want to promote this application and push it down the pipeline, they at least have an idea of what the application does.
Yeah. We had one question from Daniel in the audience. Generally about can this generate stuff like flows or workflows, and I also had a question of like, oh, what about like UI policies? Like if we prompt it well enough, is it at that point, or is it more just the table building and the record producer start and then you move from there?
I'm going to let Ronen answer that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently what we support with XS1 is roles, record producers, and forms. As part of our roadmap is also to support generating more metadata items. And I think the top priorities right now is really flows, integrating flows and playbooks. So as part of this conversation, you will also be able to leverage that conversation to create flows and work and playbooks for your app.
Nice. And then the last thing before we move on to your next demo, like part of my job to knowing the developer audience and also I was a ServiceNow admin to developer to engineer to senior engineer to leading teams with customers before I jumped to ServiceNow is like connecting your demos and what you're showing off to the people that might be watching this at home. And I want to acknowledge quickly that same thing like Daniel said earlier. He mentioned like, oh, I used this to create an app in less than 10 minutes. Like this is a real demo. This isn't a pre-recorded thing. Dave was able to produce this from plus we had 5 minutes of talking at the beginning. So it really was less than 10 minutes to get an entire app started with all the mundane work of create a field. What do you want on the field? The label of the field, the name of the field, the type of the field, and then another one, and creating the table and then creating the form that will push records into it, the record producer. So that idea of being able to create scaffolding for an app really quickly, I think is a really good thing, especially for us like veteran engineers, because at least for me, one of the main things that was hard for me, some of my customers, was some of my stakeholders needed to see something before it clicked in their mind what they were getting. And to be able to prototype or scaffold an entire app that quickly through natural language, and to fill in, like Dave was pointing out, like things that I wasn't thinking about, or suggest some fields that might be necessary for this, that is great for getting some of my tenants on board. And I come from higher ed, and we had like 25 tenants in a single instance at any given moment. And to be able to onboard them into what's capable for them is super valuable. And so that's one of the things that clicks in my mind right away when Dave created an app via a chat interface within 10 minutes. It's really valuable to me as a pro dev, along with, imagine all the things that someone that's newer to the system gets to see, and things they might have not thought about when creating the thing. So hopefully that connection is helping, is clicking for some people at home watching this too. But yeah, I think it's fun stuff. This AI, generative AI is wild to me still, but it's fun to see that stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're saying it, Dave, because this is one of the, I think, the feedback that kept repeating itself with the early adopters is like, this is a great tool for brainstorming and for prototyping. So if I want to present to other team members or to management of what are we going to build, so this can easily showcase an app and, hey, this is what's going to happen. And then you can go and continue developing this app as it made it to production.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe also one thing to add on there, as you mentioned, as pro devs, again, this there definitely is a time saving here. But I think one other thing that's great, I think, for perhaps even folks who are new to the platform, this is a good way to kind of dip their toes into it and kind of really connect some of those concepts, perhaps that they're not familiar with ServiceNow, and actually see a live app actually being generated, and kind of really solidifying perhaps what they're learning along with creating a brand new application.
Yeah, discoverability is what we've been calling it every single time it comes up. We played code generation Olympics on one of our episodes, and we put CodeGen to the test, and it was teaching some of us that are like 10-year MVP, some of them certified master architects were like, I've never knew that existed inside of our APIs. And it's like the discoverability of what's new to us is really fun with generative AI, because it's the perfect learner, because it's trained off documents, so it doesn't forget that it has access to certain things, or it doesn't forget to make certain things, which is really fun to see the discoverability of things within the platform. Yeah. Yep. Cool talking points. All right. So did you want to jump into another demo? Is what that was?
Yeah, just one other thing, and this kind of came up from Knowledge 24 when one of our other product managers thought, hey, why don't we try something fun with this? And rather than having the back and forth conversation, you could just have one terse prompt that you just put in here. But what I want to try and do right now is actually take something like a requirements document here, and let's just go ahead. Yeah, copy this whole thing. Why don't we go ahead and jump back over here? Now let's say something like, maybe help me scaffold a new application using this document, something like that. We'll go ahead and copy and paste that whole thing into here, and let's see what happens. Now again, we'll see. Sometimes this gets to be a little strict and restrictive, and in this case it did. Because we try to keep the whole experience on rails about generating a ServiceNow app. But in this case, though, it's saying that it can't do a mobile banking app, but it might be able to help me at least come up with some of the backend stuff. So I can ask it to, can you create the tables for this application and other, other roles. Let's just try that. And again, spelling errors and those mistakes will actually be corrected. So as you can see, based on it, it'll see that, hey, I can, generate the user accounts, transactions, customer support. Do these sound correct? I'll go ahead and say yes. So again, we took a document, we got a little sidetracked here, but that's okay. And then we'll go ahead and just say, you know what, just suggest some and don't ask me for more questions. And it's funny because as we were iterating on this project, we would find that doing the back and forth conversation kind of would eat into a lot of our development time. So at some point, we got really, really terse with the LLM and told it to stop asking us stuff. So again, it's going to come back here and suggest a bunch of stuff with regards to that user table, the transactions table, and I'll go ahead and say yes. And then one of the limitations, unfortunately, here is the fact that we are working within this panel here that's very heavy on the text. So I think Ronen will cover some more additional roadmap items to help kind of break up this text-heavy experience. And I'll go ahead and just continue saying yes at this point. Let's go ahead and see if it kind of matches that document that we had copy and pasted in here. And again, this is going back to that original document. This is supposed to be a mobile banking app. And then we'll see here that, hey, this is what it generated here. It created our mobile banking app, or at least providing a platform for it. And then here are your users. Here's some of the features for this application. And here's, I guess, an interface in this case. So yeah, it just kind of shows you how flexible and how you can really, really take this to the edge with some of this interaction here. And I don't think we need to kind of go through this whole generation portion since we already did that with the previous demo. But yeah, just wanted to go ahead and showcase that.
Nice. It actually is nice to have that stopgap, because if it started generating the app, knowing what metadata is available to app generation, it's actually nice that it didn't bark. It said, you know what, I can't do all that stuff, but like, let me know what you want me to do that I can do, and then I'll generate an app based off of those things. So that's actually kind of cool that it actually, because when I saw the first no, as now as this, I can't do that. I'm used to seeing like even in ChatGPT, like, no, I can't do that, and then just stops. But no, it's like, no, to clarify, I can do these things. Do you want me to proceed with those specific things? And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
Correct. Yep.
Nice.
So, yep, that's what I got.
Yeah, they're and it's gonna generate. Yeah, that's a lot of things that it needs to generate too on this thing.
I mean, we can go ahead and kick off this generation, and then we can continue talking, obviously, about other things here. But we'll go ahead and kick it off in the background.
So when you hit that generate app button, one of the questions in the chat is, this pushing to its own scope, right? Basically, another app scope. Okay,
correct. Yeah, when you're generating a brand new sys app, you're going to be creating your own custom scope for this.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So it's its own custom scope. That means use your normal deployment pipeline to move this between the instances and stuff like that. Someone in the audience was asking about that.
Yep.
I do like that it's actually walking you through. It's one of the it reminds me of like this old research study where they said like users were getting upset with their app, not ServiceNow, but they were getting upset that they thought their computer froze because they didn't know what was happening in the background. And so all they did was added a rotating circle, and then everyone was happy again. Yeah. So I like seeing this. We're doing this now. We're doing this now. This now, because sometimes it's like, oh, did it work? Am I still waiting? That's good that it's
well. And funny you should mention that. It just reminded me when we first started this project. One of the big problems that we actually faced was the fact that we were generating this massive JSON payload, and unfortunately, you would have this really, really long pause in between, let's say, that app spec that we generated till we got to this point here. And so part of the architecture that we kind of worked on is, I'm sure some folks who are familiar with the LLM related development, like agentic frameworks like LangChain or Baby AGI or AutoGPT, for instance. What we're doing is we're taking that app spec and we're breaking it up into discrete tasks. And each of those tasks then get called out to the LLM, and we generate a JSON payload off of that. by doing that, for instance, we're able to then get back these bits of metadata faster, along with providing that feedback loop to the users. So they're not sitting there waiting for that non-response.
And like even in my mind of thinking about tokens and how many like data center calls, I kind of met it breaking it up into smaller pieces doesn't even feel like it would increase token size that much or token usage or anything like that or call usage. So it's kind of nice that it's a method that will fail less often. So that's a good thing.
Right. Well, and so as you can see here, here's the application that we generated based off that Word doc again. Maybe we can take a look at, for instance, the transactions here in this case, and see, is it going to do things like withdrawals or let's take a look here. Hopefully it'll load up here. Okay, here's our transaction type. And yeah, exactly what we expect on a banking application, right? So deposits and payments. So yeah, that's what we have for app generation.
Yeah,
and
4 tables with a form and ACLs with roles, with choice fields, with the choices loaded already into each of those some of those columns on the table. Yeah. That's pretty fun. That's cool to see. It's fun to see these things come to life. So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Things that you would have to do by hand before this.
Correct. Or click through a bunch of wizard screens. So again.
Okay, so so that the first thing you demoed was step-by-step app creation. Then you did it almost like shotgun approach, put as much information in one go, and then just keep saying yes until it's finally done. What's the next thing you want to show off with AppGen?
That's what we had for right now. Just kind of showing the two based on that conversation, and the other one just getting a little cheeky and trying something that we can copy and paste straight from a document. So,
did you want to talk store release 2 at all today?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to talk about what's coming and share.
Is it on the slides?
It is.
Okay, there it goes. Switching over.
So thanks again for the demo, David. And it's important to say that this is what David has demos is available. So this is part of XS1. The same functionalities that David has shown are available today. This is some of the early feedback that we gathered from customers, and you probably saw it yourself also in the demo. Customers are really impressed and appreciate the conversational experience and the insights that the AI brings to the conversation in terms of things that they may have missed in the requirements, things that they might want to add, and so forth. In terms of asks, customers really want to be able also to utilize that capability to edit existing applications. I mean, you have hundreds or maybe tens or thousands of applications you already created, and you want to update them. Why not use Gen AI to do so? And also to support more metadata items for flow, for workspaces and other things. So I want to talk about a bit about what's coming next in XS2, things that David's team is currently working on. The traditional safe harbor notice here. So there are 3 main features that we are expecting to deliver in XS2. The first one is integration with ServiceNow Studio. ServiceNow Studio is going to be launched as part of XS2, and app generation via the analysis panel will be embedded as part of ServiceNow Studio, so you can conduct your conversation in the development environment and go back and forth and see what you have created. Another important features that came as also part of feedback that we got from customers is the ability to preview the app before you're generating it. So as David has shown in the demo, we have a conversational experience. You want to make changes. You have suggestions that are coming from the AI, and you want to see what eventually is going to be generated before you actually generated the app. So we're going to provide a read-only UI that showcases and highlights what is going to be created. And as you see it visually, you can decide whether it is okay, and you can advise the app to the AI to generate it, or you still want to make changes. And last but not least is the ability to edit existing applications. So as part of XS2, you will be able to use Now Assist for Creator and the app generation capabilities to edit existing applications. This is permission-based, so whether you are an admin or a delegated developer role for specific apps, you will be able to access those apps and edit them. What do we mean by edit in this release is the ability to add additional tables, additional roles, ACLs for existing applications, and also create new tables by extending existing tables. So you can specify to the Gen AI, I want to create this table by extending another table. And that's more or less the main highlights for XS2. And David, if there is anything else you want to add, feel free.
No, I think you pretty much highlighted everything that's up and coming, and I really look forward to definitely the preview capability, largely to kind of really provide a little bit of a visual break from that text-heavy experience we currently have.
That's awesome, especially even being in a line alongside Studio, so you can actually see everything that's happening too. I like the I like the extending from existing tables, because half the tables I make are extended from other tables. So that's nice to see that'll be in the future of it too. Awesome. That was actually cram-packed demo plus all the look ahead stuff. Maybe I'm gonna have to have you back on the show to show the store release 2 stuff and demo that too on this show. Before the episode we were talking about, like, oh, have you been on these live streams before? And they're like, no. It's like, haha, we're gonna suck you in, make you a regular on these shows. Half of the product managers and managers that we bring on this show come back like, we're ready to show off another thing. I'm like, yeah, let's jump on in. Awesome. Cool. Did you all have anything else that you wanted to plug? Any links that you wanted to talk about, or anything that you want people to go check out? What if people have more feedback that they want to provide to you about App Gen, or what if people want to reach out to you, like any of those kind of things that you want to talk about?
So definitely, we appreciate any feedback we can get, and you can contact us through support with the regular channels. You can find me on LinkedIn and contact me via LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation there, because we really appreciate this early feedback. It helps us prioritize. We have a lot of things on our plate, and we want to deliver value fast. So any feedback and any ask is something that we highly appreciate.
Yeah, same thing. Definitely look us up on LinkedIn. And yeah, if there's anything that is interesting in terms of latest developments with regards to LLMs, generative AI, maybe things that might help our product really move forward, we definitely look forward to the feedback there as well.
On my end, just check out that calendar, devlink.sn/Xanadu, to see everything else that we have in store. Check out those keynotes, those after parties from last week. If you want to see all the upcoming Creator Toolbox episodes, just go back to this channel and go to the live tab, and you'll see everything that we have lined up in the next several weeks, all the way through to November, actually. So we have Creator Toolbox is planned all the way into November. So check all those out. Hit that notify me button. I get trolled all the time for not saying this, but please like and subscribe if this content's interesting to you. This channel is for the developer community, so we don't have money coming in from these kind of avenues. So it really is, we're just trying to give you enablement content. So spread the word, share it with people if you think anything's interesting. And then fellas, stay through until the stream ends, and we can talk about we can schedule your next episode or anything. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.